Are zombie pirate gunnery mods with hand cannons any good? Before Cathay, before Chaos Dwarf blunderbusses, hand cannons were a thing with the Vampire Coast. Try to pry these cannons from their cold, undead hands and you're going to get an oversized shotgun in the face. But do they have a place in a roster where handgun versions exist? Let's dive deep. Please like, subscribe, comment, and donate plundered spoils to my Ko-Fi Hidden Cove. All support is deeply appreciated. Costing 600 to recruit in campaign for a solid 150 gold upkeep per turn. On Ultra, you get 120 entities, 7,560 health, and typical stats down the line. 15 armor, garbage leadership, garbage speed, garbage melee stats. It's as horrible as with the handguns. Let's move on. Ammunition is 22 volleys by default. Range begins at 90, obviously significantly less than the handgunners, with missile damage listed as 34 with 3 projectiles per attack, each projectile having 4 base damage, 12 armor-piercing damage, and a reload time of 14. Total accuracy is the standard 20. Calibration distance is 45, half your max range, and calibration area is 3.5 meters, so that's the amount of spread you have. Of course, this comes with the extra powder perks. Let's bring up Iron Hail Gunners and even Chaos Dwarf blunderbusses. Naturally, the blunderbusses are simply amazing, but they're also expensive. The Iron Hail Gunners offer a much closer comparison. Damage is less, but reload time is also slightly less, and calibration distance is a little better. Calibration area is much better, so this is like the difference between Empire handguns and the zombie pirate version. Thus, is helpful for us. Like with the handguns, the real difference for the Vampire Coast is simply raw damage. The obvious problem with the hand cannons is that a lot of this power is wasted unless you actually hit. That's easier when you're firing at large targets, and a lot harder the smaller your opponent and the longer the range. So your potential wastage and the potential for being outranged and picked apart is naturally high. Your potential to utterly crush enemies is also high. Of course, one of your considerations is extra powder, which means that your shots have plus 30% final damage until you are below 80% ammo. In the Lord Redline skills of plus 18% ammunition and plus 8% missile strength, and Sorcelled weapons grant rank 7 hardened pirate scum, plus 12 armor, plus 12% missile strength, and 15% spell resistance. I'll refer you to the handguns video for all the many tech tree buffs that apply, but the final result of all the buffing, independent of gunnery white boosts, will grant you something like plus 30% missile damage, plus 20% AP missile damage on top of that, and whatever your XP chevrons give you by themselves, plus extra powder when applicable. Here, that would be 5 base damage per projectile. Or would it be 16 rounded up from the 15.6 or any? With Stolen Imperial Ordnance, 19 AP per projectile, 3 projectiles per shot, so a maximum of 15 base, 57 AP per volley per entity, if you can hit the broadside of a Dread Saurian. Oh, and extra powder would turn that into a maximum of 19.5 base and 74 armor piercing per entity. Not sure how a half point is treated. The point is, it's a lot of damage, even compared to the handgun unit. So the big one, how do you use hand cannons? I think the simplest way is to use them in conjunction with other units, either as a special source of up-close damage or paired with polar opposite kinds of units, like deck gunners. Otherwise, you're faced with the usual choices, just starker. Checkerboard formations, hiding behind polearms at an angle, chevron formations. It's to your benefit if you can spam heroes to help, but that's not always an option. As powerful as these units are, their disadvantages are notable. Besides the usual speed and fragility, they just plain cannot trade with typical archer units, let alone quarrelers or celestial dragon crossbows. They're outranged by dark shards. You just do not have favorable matchups against those kinds of missile units. On the flip side, given the chance, they will utterly and righteously destroy cavalry and monsters and rip hard into larger infantry models or just larger blobs potentially. The problem is the range requires them to risk disruption. Guard mode can help you get off sporadic shots, and it's better than trying to melee to victory, but enemy units have to be pretty weakened for this to work well. Taking hand cannons is intentionally giving yourself a kind of handicap in order to have much more power on the other end. The damage gets crazy. Yes, blunderbuss realm crazy. A gunnery white slapping on enchanted ballistics at the right time makes it even more ridiculous. On that note, this unit has more potential upside individually, so consider using Spiteful Shot with it. One way or another, the hand cannons have a higher damage ceiling than the handguns, however awesome the handguns are and how their range extensions can push back the enemy's comfort zone. Handguns also benefit from more exotic builds, like having a Terrorgeist or a Rotting Leviathan gathering blobs, or a hero with a chill aura slowing the opponent down. Also, things like Kraken's Pull and even Tide Call will sap the speed of your foes. Any little trick you can do is helpful. Fighting aerial combatants is very simple. Either they're diving into melee, they're out of range, or they get utterly wrecked by you. There's not really much in between. Hand cannons are not what I'd call a beginner's choice, but if you get a flanking position, such as during certain kinds of siege situations, you start to truly decimate and annihilate your opposition. That's the point of the unit, not as a replacement for handguns, but as a nastier, up-close and personal variation. It's up to you to use it well, and to deal with your inherent weaknesses. Take care, and have fun blasting dragons into next century.